Alright folks, thought I would do a quick sort of labyrinth guide for 3.11. It's been a while since I've done the lab, and as always I typically, if I play the league, play as a labber for a variety of different reasons, but you're here for the guide, so let's jump into it. Let's keep it quick and simple. The path of building will be in the description, and I'm going to show you a run through the lab. Now the general gist of the character, the way I personally leveled it, is I set off and I took the life nodes, I took this wheel, I took this wheel, and I made my way to Resolute Technique as early as I could. I then just basically did a whole load of travelling. I did a big load of travelling, and I took sort of this path through to what you would call Art of the Gladiator Bravery. And I kind of pathed this way and picked up this because it had some dex nodes in it. I even grabbed a dex node, which I haven't got rid of yet. If my gear was a little bit better. The only thing to note is warcries are very, very strong. The last things I picked up on the tree were this Fortify wheel. One of the first nodes I actually sort of went towards when I went to Resolute Technique was I kind of grabbed Resolute Technique and then grabbed these three nodes. Effectively, melee in 3.11 is really, really useful with these new warcries, and only just now have I basically, once I've hit, what rank am I, 84, over the past few levels I've taken these nodes because I've just found the warcry effects to be so useful. You don't really need call to arms because they both share the same cooldown, and it is kind of nice to have them on different cooldowns because in the lab sometimes you get chunked by a trap and you can then press your two warcries, and what this node gives us, this particular one, is 10% life recovery. So if you've got two of them and you get in a bit of a tricky situation earlier on when your gear's not quite as good and you're getting chunked a little bit, it's a quick 20% life recovery effectively, and then you get the regen from Enduring Cry on top. So the path of building is going to have my links and my gear. To note, there was a very first lab run I did on a 5 link, very, very scuffed, but I got through it. And I then went with my first bit of currency and I bought a 6 link with, I think I spent about 20 chaos. It's corrupted, it just had the colours I needed, or a colour I could use, so I could just chuck in Fist of War. And as always, the gear is literally Fizz, Life, Resists. That's all it is. There's only one thing to note with the gear. Having a bit of Fizz Leech really, really helps out. Otherwise, you use a Mana Flask, and I used a Mana Flask until I could get something with some Fizz Leech on. And you can use a Enduring one. So basically, when you press it like this, it doesn't kind of run out, it's kind of how it works. So, if you're struggling with mana and you can't quite get the Fizz Leech, you can use a Mana Flask. So it's a very, very standard labber. I'm using a two-handed axe. This I actually bought for, I think it was about 10C. Yeah, I think it might have been 9C. Until then, I've been just crafting my own axes. There's loads of ways to craft axes with these new seeds. And what used to be very, very difficult to beat something like this, a Hes Manners, which you can use, it's like 1C. It used to be very, very difficult to beat something like this early on, but there is so many cheap axes up these days, you can just go ahead and grab one. This one, again, it's worth about 10C, it's 550 DPS. So we'll show you some gameplay now, but I just wanted to do a quick chat about basically anything I noted. You can swap this dual socket here for this, which a brute force solution, but not brute force. I think it's called fluid motion. This one does strength to intelligence. You could put one here and do strength to dex, and then that would allow you to level up some of your green gems a little bit higher, and also remove some dex off gear, which might enable you to buy some gear with more life because you're not spending the currency looking for dex on gear. So it's a very, very simple labber, 5.3k life. I'm using determination and flesh and stone just to get me through it. And it's very, very, at the beginning, what I did, if you want to know, at the beginning, I kind of spec'd up to here, these two int nodes. I took these two life nodes and I took all of these nodes, and then I also used Purity of Elements. And I used Purity of Elements because my gear was so bad, I needed it to cap myself. But, you know, that's just how it is, isn't it? If you're doing a cheap build, you use what you can sort of get your hands on to cap yourself. The flask, this flask cost me 5C. Is it needed? No. Does it help a little bit? Yeah, a tiny bit. And my flasks are basically a move speed flask, a Stib Knight you can get, a basalt flask, and I've just got basically 2 big insta pots. Again, you know, if you really don't have the fizz leech, you can just put your mana pot in there. You know, most of the time you're leap slamming anyway. And we are obviously playing Earthquake. You can see the red effect that's going off. That is the Fist of War. If you look in the bottom right hand side, there's a little red arch. Every 2 seconds you get a big slam. This just gives us some AoE. And it's just been, again, a comfortable labber. We're a Juggernaut, you know. My Ascendancy options, I just simply took kind of these ones. Normally I would go for Unyielding. I just went for the speed this time because it's just nice just to have a bit of move speed and not be slowed. So we'll do a run here, and you can see the playstyle, how it functions. And yeah, you know, it's speaking just how the character actually, I guess, leveled. Let me just fix my audio. Yeah, speaking as my character leveled, I didn't die. I've died twice, and they obviously were just player mistakes to basically maps when I really shouldn't have been in a map because I was just kind of going through the motions, you know, you know how you do. You don't upgrade your gear, you don't upgrade your pots. But generally, it's just very, very relaxing to level because you have so many new tools to sort of craft as you play. So the general gist of the playstyle, you know, you've seen every labber under the sun. I'm pressing Blood Rage, I'm occasionally killing some stuff, and I'm just leaping through. The axe, I got an axe with a decent amount of attack speed. Just kind of to help out my leap slam, a little bit of quality of life. So the war cries are kind of like this, you know, you leap through here, and if I now get a little bit low, and you see in the bottom right, if I war cry, you can just instantly get HP. Obviously, that was a pretty bad example because I actually was punctured, so when I leaped, I actually took a load of life. But basically, you take a load of damage, you've got a war cry that instantly heals you for 10% of your HP. It's pretty nice, and with 7 endurance charges, you're really not, you're just not worried about traps, to be honest. You're a Juggernaut. Yes, the lab's got a lot harder, I think. You know, you do need a bit better gear to get through the lab than, say, previous leagues, because I think it might have been last league or the league before. It got buffed in kind of damage HP. You know, the portals are a little bit annoying because they stack up, but the benefit you get from being a Juggernaut is kind of just the safety and knowing you're not really going to die. Whereas, you know, if you play a speedy Pathfinder build, yeah, you know, you can one-shot the boss, but you can also slip up and get killed. I'm actually looking, normally I'll skip Argus, but I'll look for Argus to show you kind of how it deals with it, and you can see the build a bit in action. So you go in, I put my War Chief totem down, I pop my Blood Rage on, and I War Cry. I pop my 3 pots, and I just slam away, War Cry again. And I've got a node which basically is when I'm war crying, they get debilitated and they get taunted and they have less movement speed and deal basically 15% less damage towards me, which is very nice. So that was a pretty nice node. That was a node I got fairly late on, but it's pretty useful. It's all seems to be about the war cries this league when playing melee. But again, there's nothing really too fancy. Not a lot has changed. The only things that have really changed is we're kind of substituting some attack speed and a little bit of sort of physical damage on the tree for Warcry nodes because, well, they just give you the damage as well as utility. You can see here, you know, I'm just slamming my way through. His HP stopped moving, so now I can run around, wait for him to do his speech, and it's pretty just chill. It's your classic Juggernaut. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I haven't particularly mentioned. My jewels are just max life with some resist to help my resists out. You know, like if you want to look at my gear, they've got plus attributes on to like get me some extra decks. You know, I found these gloves in the campaign, 10 fire res, 98 life. I'm sure if I spent a couple chaos, I could get a much better pair with some attack speed, maybe a pair of spiked gloves. But to be honest, the way I do the lab is I just think, to me, the lab is just a cheap thing. You get yourself going. I'm not looking to spend, you know, multiple exalts on a lab build. I'm just looking to get some gear, get myself going. You know, hopefully find a few exalts in a box. Hopefully maybe I get a good enchant, get myself a few exalts, and then I'll just roll a normal build. I know you can do that whilst mapping, but labbing allows you to play a little bit slower. And it's just, for me, it's, I know some people find it very boring, but it's kind of just this repetitive thing that you can just do. You can just buy a few offerings and think to yourself, all right, I'm going to play PoE for a few hours, like 2 hours or something. I'm going to do 10 lab runs or whatever you want to do. You can rush through and do more or less. And at the end of the 2 hours, you will have made profit. Whereas with mapping, you might map for 2 hours and not make any profit. So I feel like if you're playing sparingly, I like to put my time into something that I know is going to make money. You can make a ton of money in mapping, more so. You know, you do it properly, you progress your atlas, you sell your maps, you sell all the fancy stuff that drops in maps these days. You can make an absolute fortune. But some leagues I just like to take it a bit slower. I'm not really in a rush, and I'll just chill in the lab. Because again, it's like I think it's about an 8-minute run. You just think to yourself, yeah, I'll play, you know, if you play PoE for half an hour, you do have the opportunity to get a really, really good enchant, and that does still keep me going and keep me excited. But you can see it's, you know, there you get low if you warcry, back up to instant HP. You also are going to get the regeneration effects. If you warcry, you'll see 2,300 life regen, just bang right up there. So it's pretty safe. I've not died since going in the lab. The only thing I'd recommend, really, other than an older lab build that I've done, is pick up the warcry nodes. Fist of War's nice for AoE, but you know, you can also chuck in a concentrated effect. You know, if you want to look at anything in particular, I've got Fortify. If I move this, I've got Fortify, Blood Magic, and faster attacks. And the reason I've put Fortify in there, even though we have it in our Earthquake link, is just because, you know, we're leap slamming and we have the Fortify nodes that give attack speed. So when I leap slam and hit an enemy, I get Fortify, which gives me more attack speed, more leap slam speed, etc. You know, you can speed this up if you want. There's like reverse chill juggernauts. There's, you know, you can weapon swap, blood rage your way through it, etc. For me, again, the way I like to do my lab builds is just not even particularly slow and steady, but just steady. I'm not looking to be, I don't ever want to die in the lab. I'd rather do 2 8-minute labs than, like, you know, 3 6-minute labs and then one be kind of clench. I know, you know, the better you get at the game, you won't die. But, you know, this is a chilled out 7-minute lab run. So I personally have found the game to be more enjoyable. And the reason I made this video on PoE and I haven't made a video in a while was the reason I quit Path of Exile was the performance has just been so poor. I don't have the best computer, but the way the game was performing was not reflective of really what my computer was capable of. It wasn't as bad as PoE made out, and I was just constantly jumping. So what I did is I re-downloaded the game after I heard about the updates. I put the Vulcan beta on, and I put on this dynamic culling. Now, dynamic culling means that if you're attacking really fast, maybe not with this example, but it doesn't show every single particle on screen. It only shows the ones that are kind of, well, I don't know technically how the system works, but basically it gets rid of some excess particles, which makes it way less laggy. There's a Cospris there, you know. Back in the day that dropped, that would have been like a 2 exalted item. That used to be like the GG thing. Now look how the mighty have fallen. But I'll tell you how the lab's gone so far. I found 2 exalts, and I found a pair of death's doors. I haven't actually found any good enchants yet, at all. None that sell. So that's a bummer, because normally, if I could, why won't this get off my crosshair? You know, normally I do find something, but maybe now that I've turned the stream on, I might get a little bit of streamer RNG. So we'll see if that's correct. But yeah, you know, there's a link in the description for the path of building. If you've ever got any questions, hit me up on the Discord. There's links in the description. Just shoot us a message if I'm online or something. I'll help you out. Stormbrand deals 40% increased damage. Now, to me, that sounds better than what I was rocking before. I'm going to get rid of this one because I don't think melee people are going to be using a hubris anyway. And we got cleave. So Stormbrand deals 40% on a hubris. Let's take a look. Let's see if our fortunes have changed now that we're streaming. It is worth absolutely nothing. So 5C, 20C, 40C. That, I remember I sold that back in the day. Oh no, in fact, I sold it for 2 exiles on a Star Conjures. But that back in the day would have been good. Unfortunately, not. But yeah, that's kind of the lab build. Any questions, feel free to shoot me a message. It's your generic jug labber. You know, if you want to play more and get to a high level, I'm only level 84 and I've been in the lab for a while. You know, if you want to go 85, 86, level 87, get a little bit of better gear, remove this dex node, you know, then you could this is potentially not worth either. So you could maybe get rid of that one. So that's 2 nodes you could get, 3, 4, 5 nodes you could get. It really depends. You just grab what you need. You know, with those 5 passive nodes, you could fill in this for some damage, or you could go 1, 2, 3, 4, get another dual socket, get you some res. You know, maybe you want to go a bit faster, or you want to go down here and pick up some res on the tree, or you could even go to here and get versatile stance. There are a few options. You know, the basic principle of a lab Juggernaut is just get yourself going. Life resist gear, you can see belt, life resists. Helmet, found in the campaign, just stuck some res on it. This I bought for, this was 2C. The ring, 2C. I haven't spent anything on this build, and these boots I found. And especially now with the seeds, when you're going through the campaign, you can craft up some pretty decent stuff. And 6 links as well, uncorrupted, are like 40 chaos to buy. Which sounds a lot when you're beginning, but you soon, you know, you go into the lab with a 5 link and you sell a few gems or do a few things, you'll soon have that currency. This gear is worth, you know, if I was to sell it right now, this is a 10C axe, I reckon, a 5C helmet at best. It's only got 50 life. To be honest, it's probably worth like 2C. So this is like 7C. Maybe this is worth 3C now with a craft on, you know. 10C, this is probably worth, let's be generous, 20C. It's a very cheap build to get going, and yeah, it's, you know, a little 7-minute lab run. Any questions? Basic principles, yeah, put your totem down, slam away, occasionally press molten shell if you think you're going to get blown up. You're going to struggle like this with mana problems, but when you're actually hitting something, you'll be leeching. If you're struggling with leech, use a mana flask. And yeah, I just run myself through the lab. I've got these offerings to get through, and then once I've done with these offerings, I'll figure out how much currency I've got, and I'll just make a mapping build and just play that when I'm bored, and then just keep this guy cheaply geared. And if I fancy going into the labyrinth and doing a few runs on a specific day, he's always here, and he's not like sat with 10 exalts of gear. So there is the 3.11 Juggernaut lab build. Thanks for watching.